apologize to Aurora and Steve because I skipped you, Steve, on the agenda. And anybody that has, are you ready to talk about the results? That was next. That was supposed to be before. Or later. What do you think? Later? Oh, come on. Otherwise, we have to skip the next person, too. Steve's going to come back. At the last community geothermal meeting we had, we broke out into some amazing work group sessions and came up with pages and pages and pages of good ideas and notes. And Steve has compiled them for us, and he's going to tell you what they say right now.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I better get my notes in. I'm going to be real brief because we got a lot of work to do tonight, and I was trying to come up with a follow-up format to last week, and I was scratching my head, and I've been consulting with a person that runs high-tech meetings with Honda, with Toyota, Japan Airlines. It's called Total Call. It's kind of sort of what we did last time. And he was scratching his head too all this week. And it was in the conversation that I had, and I stayed on the phone for an hour and a half with Harry Kim. And he told me, this is what you need to do. So this is going to be the exercise for us tonight. And Harry says, don't go with the demands. He said, they're used to demands. Go with the questions and demand that they answer them. So tonight, after we break out, and Aurora is going to help facilitate that, is we're going to sit at the table in these groups that we came, and we're going to ask the questions: why, what, where. And when I was talking to Harry, I told him, well, give me some questions. And he said, what is the research acceptable distance that a geothermal plant should be from a residence? And I said, oh, what is it? And he said, I know the answer. And I said, and he said, it is 10 miles. And he said, the scientists know that. And that's what you need to ask your government. Ask them the question. Another question he said, ask, what is the dissipation rate of hydrogen sulfide when it reaches the atmosphere? What is it? That's why, he said, the answer is in the distance. That's why it's 10 miles, guys. Because it's a heavier than air thing. It depends on the volume of wind, and that's why the safety zone is 10 miles. It doesn't dissipate very fast. So these are the kind of questions that led me to kind of come up with what we're going to break out. We're going to break out in the groups, and we're going to explore the groups that reported back. And there's even questions we can ask of benefits, like why aren't the residents nearby to the plant still paying oil and freight rates? Why aren't they getting the benefit of geothermal? But anyway, on the benefits, I'm going. Now, you know what, this is too lengthy. But, I printed out all these sheets for the various groups, and for benefits, I'll just tell you the main groups, because I want some more speakers, and I really want some more time to work it out. The first was benefits, and, alternative food, power for technology parks, because Mililani was there, and Wale Shibashi, so direct use, ag-related house, those kind of thing. But on the other thing, the real volatile thing where we have to work on is Hawaiian rights, First Amendment rights, respect for spiritual and religious beliefs, etc. Health and safety, there are a lot of bullet points. Now, when you break out in your groups, I printed out 20 of these for you guys to actually go over and relate the questions to these bullet points. We had geographic location, and that's the kind of questions that we're going to ask. What is the acceptable research-based distance from the plant to and alternatives. That group met, and I mean, why are we just doing geothermal? I mean, people came up with more solar and wind generation. Cost of undersea cable could put solar in every house, utilize multiple sources, decentralize the generation, that kind of things. And the last one was a real interesting group, and that was political corruption and secrecy. And why, you know, the question is, why aren't we getting efficient? What will you do to ensure that we get the information? What will be the information? So what kind of studies are you going to do, and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of following the lead of our mighty civil defense leader. I mean, he was the voice of reason. He was a voice that people trusted. He was with us with a lot of tragedies. I first met him in Pahoa during the tsunami, the hurricane of I think '83, and house. I was living at the end, and the house washed across the road, blocking us in. And he came down the road and said, "Don't worry, you know, the water was coming into the living room and everything like that." And it was from that time. And of course, if you guys were down in Kalapana, you know that he came many times to tell you, "Okay, it's time to go now." And then in the geothermal, so you know, he kind of gave me this idea. I hope you guys get along with it, and I think that this is a valid thing. Let's ask the questions that only experts can answer. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. It was a really good breakout session. Our next speaker is Luana. Luana also lives near PGV, and she's going to tell us what that's like from her experience. Luana. I'll speak up.
Aloha kako. Hi, my name is Luana Jones, born and raised on Oahu. We came here about 30-something years ago, and we heard about geothermal. We thought, oh great, we have energy. But when we moved here, we found different. This wasn't what we wasn't that simple. Wasn't what we thought it would be. And I'm nervous. I'm not much of a speaker, but I just want to say I'm happy to see everybody here. I didn't expect to see so many people here. I didn't even go to the last two meetings because I kind of got tired of it. You know, it comes to a point where you got to keep your spirituality, and it's like you got to let it go. But this is encouraging, and I think if we can stick together and bring more people out, people that are concerned about the very things you heard here tonight, then we can make a difference, and we can have outcomes that we can be happy about, and we can be healthy about, and the future generations can be happy about. I had a girlfriend come from Molokai today, so I didn't take time to prepare something to say. I just wrote some brief things, but Steve touched on one of them, is the toxins in the resource. I don't know if everybody knows, but there's like radon, mercury, arsenic, lead, and it just goes on. The only one they monitor is H2S, and they don't even monitor the combined effects of any of the other toxins in the resource. So really, we don't know what's coming out of there. And let's see, we went through the SOH, scientific observation holes, that they first did, and that was pretty invasive, but it apparently determined where the resource was. And then when PGV applied for their permit, I don't think there's any other development in Hawaii that the process was streamlined. We cannot contest geothermal development in Hawaii, if you didn't know that. We have to go into what they call mediation for 60 days. There's a limit to it. And we have to come up with the best case, what it amounts to is we help the developer make his permit as appealing as possible, and then apparently they go ahead and approve the permit. And we weren't satisfied with what our concerns were, mainly health and safety of the community. And anyway, you know, it took a lot out of our family to get involved, but the one good thing that Geothermal did was it brought the community together. And there was a time when all of us knew all of us. There's a lot of new people, and I see a lot of familiar faces here. But after 2 years of meetings and protests, we even, I don't know how many of you remember, we put that 200-yard orchid lane around the county building to, you know, express our hope that our government officials would hear us and hear our concerns. But and after 2 years of all the meetings and all the mediation and demonstrations and all, it still happened. And then one night, the worst case scenario happened. They had the blowout. And the blowout shut them down for, I think, 4 years. And the EPA stepped in. And apparently, it's a lot better than it was. We're not getting back gas. So I live upwind. Aurora lives downwind. But we were getting gas pretty bad. And when we would call and complain, they'd say, well, we're within our permit guidelines on a 24-hour average. We're within the law to gas you, not even give us an apology. But after the blowout, the Department of Health officials, I think his name was Bob Anderson, he called us psychogenic, psychosomatic. Anyway, he was telling the whole state that it was in our minds. And it was the community that put surveys out in the community for people to fill out about how you were affected. And it was the community that came up with this scenario based on people's responses to our survey. Apparently it blew out. It went right down towards Kalapana. It went all around Leilani. It went up Kama'i. I may have some of this wrong because it was so many years ago, but apparently, you know, it took about a couple of days. It went down and it came back up, and then it went to Hawaiian beaches. All this plume and gases that the blowout caused. And then the fishermen reported that the plume let out 25 miles out into the sea. So, you know, we're dealing with something that can be pretty horrendous. And like Polly said, you know, we have to respect the cultural mana'o. Is that we are violating that entity, that the sacredness of the entity. And there's so many details that have gone on in the last 30 years that people don't know about, but they need to know. And personally, I really would like to see the generations to come perfect ocean-generated energy, because we're surrounded by ocean. I think it can be done benign. But anyway, I'm just glad to be here, glad to see everyone, and I'm in, and we'll go forward. Mahalo.